Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Report. Hope everyone is having a wonderful Friday. We've got a 4-game slate on our hands. Again, apologies for not being here yesterday, and I guess apologies for also going live a lot earlier today. For those of you who could not make it to the live show, obviously, I hope you have joined me now later in the day, and we are all going to win plenty of cash tonight. Again, if you are watching live, feel free to drop any questions you may have throughout the show, and I will try to answer as many, if not all of them, as I can as we go. Who cleaned up the cat? Yeah, it's the first time I've not worn a hat in a while, so yeah, no, there's the hairline's getting bad though. Boy, I turned 30 a couple weeks ago. It's not treating me so well. But yeah, I got a wedding coming up, man. Got it cleaned up here soon. So just a reminder, I'm assuming there's probably not too many new people here, but if there's anybody who's not watched the show before, we break these games down game by game, taking an analytics view, a matchup view, a much different way to go about fantasy DFS fantasy hockey than anywhere else that you will find. So if you want to get access to any of the charts that you will see on today's show, be sure to become a DFO premium member. You can do that by going to dailyfaceoff.com, going under fantasy DFS. You can click DFS 585 score. You can click daily projection. You can click lineup optimizer. They will all prompt you to pay. And then when you do that, you can get the DFS package for as little as $19.99 for the month. Hopefully it pays for itself rather quickly. I hope everybody had a good Thursday. Hope you guys won some money without me. If not, we'll get back on the horse tonight with a 4-game slate. So oddly enough, this slate starts at 6 instead of 7. So just be aware of that when you're building your lineups. It actually kind of inadvertently worked that I had to come live earlier because the 5 o'clock show wouldn't have worked anyway. Because the first game is at 6 p.m. So the first game will be the Maple Leafs hosting the San Jose Sharks. The Leafs are on, I think they've had 3 days rest in between games. The Sharks are on the tail end of a back-to-back, something to keep in mind. But it's the front end of a back-to-back for the Maple Leafs. So they'll go with Michael Hutchinson in the first half of the back-to-back. Aiden Hill starts for the San Jose Sharks. The Buffalo Sabres look to continue their winning ways. They will host the Boston Bruins. Will be Craig Anderson for the Sabres. Linus Ullmark makes his Bruins debut. Coincidentally, will come against his former team in Buffalo. Third game of the night, we've got the Dallas Stars hosting the LA Kings. It's Braden Holtby for the Dallas Stars. Looks like it's going to be Cal Peterson for the LA Kings, but again, unconfirmed. Only likely, so make sure you tune in to warm-ups at 8 p.m. Eastern, where I'll have all that information on the Twitter and the website. And then the last game of the night, we've got the Vegas Golden Knights hosting the Edmonton Oilers. Robin Lehner likely for the Golden Knights. Mikko Koskinen is expected to start for a second straight night for the Oilers. I just realized that I did not plug my laptop in. We're at about 36% here, so hopefully we can rip through this show rather quickly and you don't lose me completely. So let's not waste any time. We've got the Edmonton Oilers top line, unsurprisingly, great night last night after breaking up Leon and Connor. Didn't really matter. Connor's line absolutely went nuts. Zach Hyman had a couple goals. They grade out as the best line to target in this game. Second best is Toronto 1. Third best is LA 1. Fourth best is the Bruins top line. Then Vegas's top line. Then my Buffalo Sabres still graded out pretty well. I think a lot of people will probably be pretty surprised how low Boston's ranking. I actually was pretty surprised myself. They seem to have the cushiest matchup of the group, but we'll get into all that here. And let's start up top with the Leafs and the Sharks. So as I mentioned, the Leafs top line grades out as the best play on the entire slate. They also have the best matchup in this game by a pretty considerable margin. They're going to be basically going up head-to-head with the Sharks top line most of the night. They will see a little bit of the third line and then a sprinkling couple shifts against the other lines. But mostly it's going to be head-to-head with the Sharks top line. The second line of the Maple Leafs is going to see a lot of this top line, a lot of the second line as well. So Toronto 1, obviously outstanding across the board. 36 scoring chances for, almost 37 scoring chances for per 60 is terrific. 15 high danger chances, outstanding stuff. But Toronto 2 Tavares, Nylander, also very, very good. Their numbers are nearly identical to that of Toronto 1. So both very good lines right now. Defensively, both very solid as well. But Toronto 1 is going to see a lot more of this Sharks top line, who is by far the worst defensive line that the Sharks have to offer. And it's not particularly close. The second, third, and fourth lines have actually done a pretty good job. The third line just slightly above average, but really the second and fourth lines have done tremendous work for the Sharks. So the Sharks have been one of the more surprising teams early in the season, and their defensive play has been rather strong. So I look for the Maple Leafs top line to really take advantage of this matchup. About 50% of their ice time coming against San Jose 1, and I really look for them to take advantage of this matchup. I'm not super in love with Toronto 2. I think they're fine. Toronto 2's let us down plenty, and on a slate where you've got Boston 1, you've got Edmonton 1, you've got Leon 2 on Edmonton 2, and then Toronto 1, of course. I think that I probably will stay away from playing John Tavares and Nylander a lot. I think it's 6,800 for Tavares and 6,000 for Willie Nylander. 67 and 6,000. I was pretty close. So I think I would just much rather pay for the top line that has a much better matchup. As for the Sharks, I think I want to try to find some interest in the Sharks, but I'm having a hard time. I want to because they're playing Michael Hutchinson, and he's really not all that good. But the matchup's not great. The Leafs have been pretty stingy defensively. The top line's really solid defensively. The second line's pretty good too. The whole top nine grades out well above average defensively. So realistically, the only line that I would even slightly consider is the Sharks top line, because they're by far their best offensive line, but they're going to be going up with that head to head with that Matthews line most of the night, and that's really going to hamper their upside. So overall, I think I'm going to avoid the Sharks a little bit. I do have interest in Timo Meier, maybe as a one-off. Logan Couture looks really, really solid. So maybe if you're building a lot of lineups, you might want to have a little bit of exposure to those two. They look tremendous early in the season. You want a full stack and include Dolan. He's been solid this far. Eklund looks good, but it's just not a great matchup. It's a back-to-back. I think they'll still get quite a bit of ownership because Hutchinson is starting. And I don't necessarily see it being that good of a matchup for San Jose. So I'm probably going to stay away. I might have a little bit of exposure to that top line. Mick Ultra type of night. No, that was last night. I got together with all my groomsmen and we got into one a little bit last night. So today, taking it easy for now until, maybe later when I sit down and watch some hockey. But this afternoon, no Mick Ultras today. Second game of the night, we've got the Bruins and the Sabres. So yeah, you might be surprised as to how low the Bruins rank. I think a little bit of that just has to do with how good all the other lines are on this slate as well. But yeah, their matchup is really good still. 77% matchup score is really good. They're going to see quite a bit of Buffalo's fourth line, surprisingly enough, which grades out by far the Sabres' worst defensive line. So nothing to worry about there. They're going to see quite a bit of just the bottom six here of the Sabres. Both, the third line's very good defensively, fourth line's very bad defensively. But we saw this line go up against Sean Couturier the other night, and for most of that game, they dominated. Just had a hard time finding the back of the net. That shouldn't be the case tonight. Buffalo's been on a nice run. They've been really, really stingy defensively, but they haven't played anybody close to the caliber of Boston 1. So I would imagine they'll be the most popular on the entire slate, and for good reason. They don't grade out that exceptionally compared to some of these other lines in 5v5 score tonight, but it's not going to scare me off at all. I love Boston 1. I'm going to be all in on them tonight. Their numbers are terrific. The matchup is solid. Going back to Toronto for a second, they've been pretty disappointing thus far. But they're all kind of snake bitten. Like Matthews, I think leads the league in expected goals for without scoring a goal. Marner's top 3. I think Tavares is top 5, something like that. So they've been pretty snake bitten. They've been generating a lot of chances. So I think Toronto could explode tonight. I think Boston could really, explode against the Sabres and kind of just remind everybody that the Sabres aren't as good as they've looked thus far. There's been all these narratives that like Jack Eichel was a cancer or like holding them back or whatever, all the drama, whatever, like just outrageous shit. I just think, they've had a pretty nice start. It's a good storyline. They haven't played any good teams. Buffalo's probably going to fucking steamroll them. So, Yeah, I like Boston's top line a lot tonight. The second line I still do like. They don't grade out that great offensively, but Craig Smith is a volume shooter. He's the type of guy that you can get. I think he's 3,800. You can get 5 shots out of him every single night. And he's going to hit value. Loves to shoot the puck. They're going to see a lot of the middle six of the Sabres, which is pretty solid defensively, all in all. So it's not the greatest matchup, but if you want to get exposure to the Bruins and come off that top line and go with the much less owned line, then that's definitely going to be Boston too tonight. Taylor Hall's looked really, really good early on as well. So I really like Smith. I really like Hall. I probably won't play Charlie Coyle. I think he's terrible, but those two wingers I really do like in this game. As for the Sabres, I mean, I would, I want to go back to them a little bit. They did, they they proved me proud the other day. I was like a happy dad watching them go off after what was it, Tuesday's show. They're going to see a lot of the Bruins' third line tonight. The top line is that is the Bruins' worst defensive line. So it is a pretty good matchup for that Dylan Cousins, Jeff Skinner line. Dylan Cousins hasn't done a whole lot up to this point, but he's super cheap, so he's, I think, probably worth a dart throw at 3,400. Vinny Hinostroza has been shooting the puck quite a bit. Jeff Skinner's way too cheap at 3,700. So even if you don't want a full-blown build around the Sabres, and if you're not expecting Lightning to strike twice, I do think that there's a little bit of value in some of these guys, particularly Jeff Skinner as a one-off play. I do like him. The second line, they're going to see a little bit more of the top six of the Bruins, which is just not quite as good of a matchup. The top line's obviously outstanding defensively. They'll get killed by them. The second line's better than the third line. So I don't love, obviously, the Sabres as much tonight as opposed to the other night when they were getting, the tastiest matchup possible against the Canucks. But this is still an okay spot, I think, particularly for Jeff Skinner, and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of Tage Thompson and Victor Olofsson, because they've been shooting the puck a ton. So those three players have really become the focal point of the Sabres offense, and you get them at a really discounted price. So even just a couple power plays can help them, boost their value tonight. So again, not in love with the Sabres tonight, but there's still, I think, some value to be had there. This next game, I'm not really sure what to do with it. The Stars grade out exceptionally well in terms of the matchups. Right now, the way the Kings lineup is constructed, all four lines very, very poor defensively. So maybe this is a chance for the Stars offense to break out. But the way that this lineup is constructed, I mean, I don't even know how you could possibly build around the Stars. I couldn't tell you which one of these lines is going to play the most amount of ice time. I would have to say Seguin, because they seem to be in love with Luke Glendening. He's on the top line. If that's what, I don't know what to do with this. It's disgusting. They just really haven't done anything yet. None of their top dogs have played particularly well. In terms of generating scoring chances, I think they're bottom 3 in the NHL right now. I think they're 4th lowest in expected goals for. So the offense has not been very good. The Kings look solid. Defensively, their numbers aren't outstanding. They're about middle of the pack, but Cal Peterson looked really, really, really good against the Predators again the other night. Unfortunately, he didn't come away with the victory, but I think the Kings are a really solid team. I think the Stars are really searching for it offensively. So I don't think I'm going to play any Dallas tonight on a 4-game slate. I think I'm just going to take a stand, and if it burns me, it burns me. Cal Peterson's only $7,400. I think he's my favorite goalie of the night. A lot of these other goalies, there's a ton of question marks surrounding him. Like, yeah, are the Leafs going to win? Probably. They're heavy favorites, but Michael Hutchinson's not very good. So I don't feel confident playing Michael Hutchinson at like $8,100 or whatever he is, when I can get Cal Peterson, who's a much better goalie, for $7,400 against an offense that's struggling. I don't want to play Robin Lehner against Connor McDavid. The Golden Knights have been terrible defensively, and Connor McDavid and Leon are freaks. Braden Holtby against the Kings, maybe, but I still like Peterson to win that game more. I think Allmark's obviously going to be pretty popular tonight. I think coming off of like the popularity of Allmark is a good move potentially, and going with Peterson. I think he's my favorite play of the night in between the pipes. If you're fading Toronto, I think Aiden Hill is a criminally underrated goaltender, but I just don't see him stealing a game in Toronto. But crazier things have happened. This game, I think, is the slate. I've never really been on a slate where I've looked at it and been like, I don't like any goalies except for one, and I'm building lineups, and every single time, like, trying to tweak, trying to do different things. I'm like, Cal Peterson over. So if they get lit up tonight, I'm going to make $0. But I'm all in on Cal tonight until this Dallas Stars offense can really, show any signs of life whatsoever. And then it's not just like a short sample size thing. I mean, if you go back and use this sample size here, which is going back to last season, these are underwhelming offensive numbers at 5v5. Sure, the matchup's pretty good, but I still think that this Kings team is going to get better and better defensively as the season progresses. So I just, yeah, I think that's a long-winded way of saying I have no interest in the Dallas Stars tonight. As for the Kings, I think I have a little bit of interest. Obviously, the matchups are pretty good across the board. Particularly this top lines look really, really good. I think I've said particularly like 7 times on the show. I should probably stop that. LA1, like they're going to see quite a bit of Dallas 2 and 3. They're like as average defensively as you can get. So it's a pretty good matchup for a line that's been really, really, really good. 2.9 expected goals for, 32 scoring chances for, 14 high danger chances. They've been really, really good. They graded as the 4th best offensive line on the slate. So yeah, they pique my interest a little bit. Philip Deneau line's not really getting anything going. I mean, at least not too much. Like, they've been solid, but I'm not paying for Deneau, Kempe, and Iafallo. They're just too pricey for what little offense you might get out of them. If you're looking for super cheap punt plays, I think LA3 is solid. I think they're a pretty good third line. The matchup though is not very good. They're going to see a lot of Dallas 3, which is pretty good. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to fit in a bunch of top dogs on the slate, I think that the Kings depth pieces could provide a little bit of offensive punch. You've got Gabe Velarde at 3,200, Tikachev at minimum price. I like them as a potential little mini stack to save some salary. And then they've got a couple cheap defensemen as well. Matt Roy, Mikey Anderson plays a ton, and he's almost minimum price. He's not very good, like in terms of DraftKings scoring, but he plays a ton of ice time with LA1 and Drew Doughty. So he correlates well with LA1 and saves some salary there as well. The 4th game of the night, we've got the Oilers grading out at the top, unsurprisingly. To full stack them is 19,800. I think that's pretty good. The Golden Knights, as I mentioned, have struggled a lot defensively so far this season. To make matters worse, they're going to lose Alec Martinez tonight. Their blue line does not look nearly as solid without him. So yeah, like even though it's a back-to-back situation, Edmonton should be able to come in here and still put up some goals. With Mikko Koskinen starting again on back-to-back nights, I am a little concerned, obviously, about that. But that should be good. I think this should be a high-scoring game. I think both sides of the puck are really, really good options. Vegas 1 looks really good without Pacioretty and Stone. They're still only 14,000. I'm going to take advantage of that price all day long. Why Jonathan Marchessault is 4,600 is beyond me, but yeah, his price is just too good to pass up on. I do have quite a bit of interest in Peyton Krebs at 2,500. He moves up the lineup to play with Chandler Stevenson. I think he's a really nice minimum price punt tonight. Nick Waugh as well. Those two, if you want to pair them together, 2 minimum priced guys, I think they're going to see plenty of ice time. And they're both pretty solid offensive contributors. So I like them more than Nolan Patrick and Dadonov tonight. And I think that they're probably the more established names and will probably get a little bit more ownership. None of them should see a ton, but yeah, I think that second line is very, very intriguing tonight just to save a shitload of salary. They're going to be going up against the Oilers' 4th line almost exclusively tonight. That's kind of the way things went in the last game. They took a lot of the defensive responsibilities off of Chandler Stevenson without Pacioretty and Stone, unsurprisingly, put those responsibilities on the top line. Now you've got Stevenson, Peyton Krebs, and Waugh going up against an Oilers 4th line, which is absolutely dreadful defensively. 34.8 Corsi 4 is gross. Yeah, they're just awful. So that is a really nice spot, I think, for 2 guys that are minimum price on a slate with McDavid and Pastrnak and Matthews. You're going to want to try to cram these guys in and find some salary relief. And I think that you could probably do that with Krebs and Waugh. That second line, pretty good numbers. Waugh and Stevenson have had put together some pretty good numbers in the past. So again, just furthers the reason to like them tonight. The top line is obviously outstanding. The issue for the top line is that they are going to see quite a bit of the second and third lines of the Oilers, which, the second line is not very good defensively. The third line is. So, going to have to kind of pick your poison there. But I think obviously at that price, it's going to be impossible to fade Vegas 1 tonight. They're way, way too cheap. And then on the other side of the coin, I said it many times in the show last year, if you weren't here, when Leon is not with Connor, I do not play Leon unless it's just kind of in a weird spot or I'm trying to get some weird lineups together because that line, that Nugent Hopkins, that Draisaitl, Yamamoto line does nothing offensively at 5v5, like literally nothing. Obviously, Draisaitl can still break a slate on the power play, but at 5v5, they do nothing. They are one of the worst offensive lines in this entire slate, if you can believe it. The fifth worst offensive line on the slate, which is just disgusting. So it's hard to pay 8,300 for Draisaitl. He disappointed last night, and obviously that could happen again tonight. But always keep in mind, yeah, he can go off, but if he does, it's probably going to be on the power play. So obviously a lot more interest in Toronto, or excuse me, in Edmonton one. I saw Zach Hyman and immediately went back to Toronto one. Much better option. So that is that. I'm at 11% on the computer here. This live stream is really crushing my battery. But I did mention a couple of punts already, or defenseman options. My favorites of the night, Nick Hag, unquestionably one of my favorite D-men on the slate. He's going to move up and play with Alex Pietrangelo. And with Alec Martinez out, he's going to be on the top pair with Pietrangelo. Zach Whitecloud's going to move and play with Theodore. So both those guys equally I like. I have a little bit of a lead towards Nick Hag just because he sees some power play 2 usage. So I like Hag a little bit more than Whitecloud, but you can make an argument for both of them. Should see a lot more ice time, and they're dirt cheap. Hag's just 2,800. Whitecloud is 2,700. So basically the same price. Another one, he's going to be popular. He was popular last night as well, but Evan Bouchard is playing more and more and more and more in Edmonton. Shoots the puck a ton. Evan Bouchard's a tremendous deep one. I believe he's 3,600. And then the other one, Matt Grzelcyk, he's going to move up to the top pair and play with Charlie McAvoy, which means he's going to see plenty of ice time with the top line of the Bruins. And you don't have to pay up for McAvoy. Obviously, you can, and if you want to still, because he's on the top power play unit. Grzelcyk is not. So there's a little bit more correlation there, but you're saving almost 2,000, more than 2,000 by going down to Grzelcyk, who's just 3,400. He should see, upwards of 20, 23, 24 minutes tonight. So he looks really, really good as well on the blue line. So that's those 3 or 4 guys are the ones that I'm really rolling with tonight on the blue line. And then, as I mentioned, in net, my top rated or top projected goaltender of the night is Michael Hutchinson, because the Leafs are such big favorites, followed closely by Linus Ullmark, unsurprisingly. But like I said, Cal Peterson is, to me, at 7,400 just presents too much value in a matchup that I think I have a little bit better of a feeling of what's going to happen in that game as opposed to what's going to happen in Toronto or what's going to happen in Vegas. Both those games could end up being really high scoring. So I think it's Ullmark and I think it's Cal Peterson tonight, and that's probably as crazy as it gets. Any concerns with Edmonton on a back-to-back? Not particularly. I said it again. It's early in the season. I'm not too worried. Obviously, it's a bit of a concern going into Vegas on a back-to-back. Never great, but this isn't the same Vegas team right now, so I'm not worried. Vegas is struggling defensively, so Connor doesn't need too many chances. He's been an absolute freak lately, so no, I'm not that worried. This early in the season, it's still Connor McDavid. They've got a pretty young team, and it's a Vegas team that's struggling right now. So no, I'm not concerned. But I'm going to end today's show on that note. No show, obviously, tomorrow. So if you want to get access to all of these charts, please make sure you subscribe to DFO Premium. I'm going to just pull up the charts for one last minute here. Oh, implied totals. Forgot to show those. Toronto at the top, Boston 2, Vegas 3, Dallas 4, which just I don't understand. Edmonton 5, which is, I guess Vegas is concerned about them on a back-to-back. But Matthews, Marner, McDavid, Hyman. Yeah, I've built quite a few lineups with that start, which was really solid. Hat-trick call of the night. David Clarkson. Hat-trick call of the night. It is going to be Victor Arvidsson. Victor Arvidsson's my hat-trick call of the night. If I had to give 2, Matthews. He's too good. I know it's a bit of a cop-out. I gave you one obvious one not. But I think Matthews has a huge night today. I think the Sharks get beat up pretty good. I think the Leafs have their offensive coming out party tonight. I think Boston really shows Buffalo who's boss tonight. I think LA wins. And then I think it's just an absolute 5-4 game in Vegas. But that's going to do it for today's DFO DFS report. Please smash that like button on your way out. Always appreciated. And head over to dailyfaceoff.com, sign up for DFO Premium, support the website. And then obviously you get access to these charts. These were posted at 1:30 this afternoon, so you would have had them many hours before lock to build some lineups. So I'm going to go before my laptop shuts down on me. Enjoy your guys' weekend. We'll see you guys back here on Monday. Have a great night.